Welcome back, guys. And this is our second Shows to Feature YouTube channel interview with Vipin Venugopal, writer, director, editor, multi hyphenate, and he's gonna tell us a little bit more about his short film. Tell us a little bit about you, Vipin.
I am originally from India. I am a writer, director, producer, and editor. I used to be a mechanical engineer for a few years, after which I decided to follow my passion and do filmmaking full time. So I've lived in the US for a few years, and I moved to the UK in 2018, and I've since made my films here.
Tell me about Better the Devil You Know. If you had to pitch it to the filmmakers, how would you pitch it?
So Better the Devil You Know is an exploration of morality and mortality, is the way I'd say it. It's a story of Norman, who is expecting to go to heaven after his death, but he finds himself in a strange place somewhere else entirely. And while he's wondering what's going on, he realizes he has to argue his case, the morality of his life. One of the reasons why I thought I was the right person for it was my unique sort of cultural background. Like I said, I'm originally from India. It's a very spiritual place. Like I grew up with a lot of spirituality around me, but I'm not particularly religious. But there are aspects of this film that examines religion, the role of religion in morality as well, which I was very fascinated by. And with having been lived in the US and UK, I thought I had a unique, a third person perspective that I could bring to it. I think the world is sort of sliding into more dubious territories. Like in the past, we used to look up to our leaders and there was a certain moral standard that they had to uphold, which seems like it's all completely out the window now. In terms of the production, the script was written by a writer called Andrew Kurd. I met him at a networking event. And then when he sent me the script the next day, I read it and I immediately was like, oh, this is great. Let's do it. But obviously before that, I had to make sure I was working with I had a few ideas on how to change things to make it a bit more visual, a bit more cinematic. And I'd say the other main driving force behind the project was my DOP, Matthew Scott, who really was also a passion project for him. And he really championed a big part of the pre-production and production. One of the main challenges was the budget. We shot in one night, overnight in a pub. And for me, the location was very important because I wanted the location to feel very timeless. Like I couldn't just rock up to a Weatherspoons and film there. It would not have the right vibe. So we were looking around for a couple of months and we ended up finding this beautiful 600-year-old pub in Dorking, Surrey, called the King's Arms. We turned up on the day of shoot and we were supposed to have the location from 10 p.m. onwards. But that day there was a Premier League match going on that went into extra time and then went into penalties. And the pub was like, we can't kick our patrons out. Like they are our regular patrons. And we're like, yeah, fair enough. And then, so we got the location like an hour and a half, 2 hours later than we thought. And we had a hard stop in the morning because the pub was on a main road. So there would be cars and vehicles starting to cross by. So we'd have issues with sound. And obviously the pub was also open. So then it was a scramble like, okay, let's do it. Let's get it done. The crew was a combination of my DOP's contacts. A lot of the crew were people I met at networking events. I went to networking events with the sole intention of meeting crew. Like I knew I wanted to meet a really good production designer who I met at a networking event, costume designer, and stuff like that. Some of the crew are people in my network who I've worked with in the past on other projects. And yeah, some were people I worked with for the first time. Cast is very interesting. This was actually the first time in my career that I did open casting. So I put out open casting calls out on Mandy and other profiles. And that was a very interesting process for me because in the casting, I deliberately did not mention like any race or any ethnicity or anything like that because I wanted to really see what would come. I guess I'm giving something away, but there's a character of the devil, and I was really paying attention to who would who would be the right person to come up for that, because there will be some connotations regarding who ends up being cast there. But actually, what ended up was the right person for the role ended up being someone who's of Iranian ancestry, which I found very very interesting. And then I thought, actually, if you look at the myth of the devil, it is from the Middle East. It's like Christianity is sort of borrowed from pagan
Yep,
religions, right? So all of it is
correct.
like Balthasar and all of that. It's from the Middle East, so it sort of felt,
Close
in essence,
circle.
a full circle. It felt like it was meant to be that I found this actor, and he did an amazing job as well.
Uh, Tell us about the post production then.
Post production was done. The editing was done by me because I'm also an editor. I did bulk of the editing, and color grading was done by my friend Roman, who is a professional color grader. He's an amazing guy. Does all sorts of things. Music was done by someone who predates my film career, called Anjana Rajgopalan. She's a female composer. She's one of the There's very few female composers in India, but she's also an opera singer and multi instrumentalist. She does performances all over the world. Sound design was done by Jimmy Ferrafino, who's a really good sound recordist and color grader. Sorry,
Fantastic.
sound designer. Yeah. Funnily enough, took a few months. So we filmed it in March, in Feb 2020. So 1 month after we shot it, the pandemic broke out, which obviously made things very, very hard. The color grade is the one thing that took the longest time, just because we needed to meet in person to talk about the color and to arrange those things. So we had to wait for the the lockdowns to open up, and I think we did the color grade between
Yes.
the first lockdown and second lockdown. There was like 1 or 2 weeks or something, and we're like, let's go for it.
So tell me about once the project was completed, you submitted it to festival. What was the strategy and how did it go?
For the strategy, I really focused on film festivals that celebrate genre festivals. And typically, the thing I found is a lot of them are horror, sci-fi, thriller, and fantasy film festivals. So I focused on and submitted to those film festivals primarily. It had its premiere. I was very excited because it had its premiere at Fright Fest 2021. It played at Cineworld in Leicester Square. Proper
Wow.
proper big cinema at their main the main screen as well. After that, it went on to perform really well. It played at Liftoff Film Festivals. It was nominated there. It was also nominated for a jury prize at Fright Fest. And the other interesting thing to note was that it was a closing film in my set of short films, which was quite interesting, because it was nice to everybody left with that film fresh in their minds. Um, and it also played at film festivals around the world. It was nominated for best fantasy feature film, best fantasy short film at Paris Film Festival. It also won Gold Award at UK Seasonal Film Festival, and it did well at other film festivals like this.
Can I ask you, because obviously, in a way, it was a fairly early short film for you,
Mhm.
and then you only spent £3,000.
Mhm.
Um, so what's the secret? Why do you think it did so well at festivals?
I think the way we spent the £3,000 was that we knew we wanted that. Obviously, for a fantasy piece, that mood is very important, and that was one of the reasons why we decided to shoot in one day, because the amount of lighting and equipment we needed, the smoke and all of that for setting up the ambience was, we decided to really prioritize the mood as well. And so that's something that me and the DOP and the production designer, we worked very closely on. So I think we were very smart with how we spent that money. That's number one. Number two is also the power of your network and pulling in favors. This is where the work you do sort of outside of strictly films is also really useful. One of the reasons it did really well at festivals is because it came down to the story and the characters at the core of it. And that was the reason I wanted to do it as well, was because it had clear characters, it had characters wanting to do something and the conflict that they're in, and then examining that morality. I think in combination of the tone and the story and the characters, I think worked well together.
How did you raise the budget for this film?
Yes, we primarily raised it through crowdfunding. So it was the first time we did crowdfunding, where we managed to raise £2,000. And then the DOP and we put in some of our money into it as well. So in terms of expenses, we spent £3,000, like I said earlier. So it was primarily through crowdfunding. The thing I've noticed is obviously a lot of people in my network are not filmmakers, but they're happy to support me as a filmmaker because they could see that I'm trying to do something different, follow a passion. So non-film people see films differently to filmmakers. And I think this is the main point. And this is one of the reasons why one of the things I focused on in my second crowdfunding was that the messaging has to be for non-film makers, right?
Yep.
You're not trying to get film funding from other filmmakers. And I think it's really good learning for your career in general, because your success of your career is going to depend on non-film people coming and watching your film, right? So I feel like crowdfunding, if you do it that way, is a good stepping stone towards that.
What advice would you give for people that are about to make their first or second short?
I think I have a couple of answers for that. One is a little bit more top level, and one is a little bit more practical, I think. The top level answer is it's all about action. You just have to take the action and you have to do it. Your creativity is going to come from what you do, the actions. It's not going to come from your thoughts, you sitting and thinking in a room. Although that is important, but that is very limited, the creativity that comes from that. That's what I've realized as I've done more and more projects. And the onus is on you as a filmmaker to make the project happen. Try to focus on your instincts in terms of what you want to do, and trust your instincts. And it's okay if the film is not great.
Thank you so much, Vipin. Really, really appreciate it. I thought it was very, very useful, and we look forward to watch your next project. Thank you so much, and take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. Thank you, guys. Bye.